What's up, y'all? We are back with another video that I'm pretty sure y'all are going to find educational as we dive into the discussion everyone's been having lately about white folks segregating themselves and creating all-white communities. Yeah, it's been in the news. It's made headlines. There's been plenty of videos, content creators, people who review videos. Everyone's been talking about this because some people find it offensive that a group of white folks want to segregate themselves and keep other groups out, as far as black people, as far as Jews, as far as LGBTQ people. Yes, these people, this community is saying that they are excluding other groups of people. Now, I must tell y'all something. Years ago, and I have done research on this before, there is a utopia that is set to be created over the next few years. And the way that this utopia is supposed to be set up is that people will be living, most people will be living in high-rise buildings. Yes, most people will be living one person on top of the other on top of the other. The population is going to grow so much and AI is going to take over so much that a lot of jobs are going to be phased out to AI, who is going to take over. So now you have to ask yourself, if AI takes over most of the jobs, what are people going to do as a means of survival, as a means of livelihood, paying their bills, eating? Well, it is said, and this is from the research that I did, you can look this up. I forget what this project is called, but it is said that we are all supposed to receive, and I'm not sure if I will still be alive yet or you will still be alive yet when they implement this, but it is said that we are all going to receive a based pay, based salary. Yes, a universal salary for everyone. Everyone's going to get the same amount of money. I don't know where it's going to come from. I don't know how they're going to produce this money without labor, even though AI is going to be the labor because they are going to take over a lot of jobs. I'm not sure how they're going to implement all of this. It didn't specifically say, but it is saying that this is the community, the environment, the utopia that they are trying to build. And so you must think about something. If this is said to be the next societal project, which a lot of what's going on is, how are people actually going to survive on a monthly based income, universal, everyone gets the same amount? You live in a one-bedroom apartment because we all know that families are not being created anymore, but people have to have sex, right? Right. Before we continue into the video though, I need y'all to do 3 things for me. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this video so someone else can do the very same thing. And if they don't, then we're going to send Andrew Schulz after them. Now, Andrew Schulz has a guest on the show that is going to discuss this societal experiment that he did research on. And it is going to show you exactly how some people of different races cannot get along together. It's going to show you exactly how whenever you have people stacked on top of each other, whenever you have people living right next to each other, directly next to each other, people living on top of each other, what actually happens when the population grows and when the population decreases, because these are all societal experiments. I even came from a community where it was nothing but buildings, buildings and buildings, people living on top of each other. Projects, as they call it. Yes, projects. Because to me, it's a project. When you have so many people stacked up on top of each other, people living directly over and under each other, you're going to have a lot of conflict. You're going to have a lot of conflict because people don't have the room and the space to grow on their own. And they are being forced to live amongst other people. So, I'm not going to get any more into it. I need y'all to watch this video as I am going to watch it with y'all, and you will get my commentary afterwards.
Here's the shortest version. Yeah. Universe 25. You ever heard of this?
No.
This is an experiment that this guy did in the United States, the guy John Calhoun. And he was a researcher at the National Institute of Health. And basically he was doing these rat experiments where he was trying to see basically the effects of urbanization. So like post World War II, you have these cities propping up all over the country. They're like expanding. You got New York, Chicago, LA. They're becoming these massive hubs where people are living in these small, tiny little apartments. And basically he was doing these rad experiments to see if you had all your resources met, you had food, you had housing, all that stuff, just by overpopulation, would it lead to social decay? And so he creates
So real quick, because I think it's really important. There's enough food.
Yep.
There's enough shelter. Okay, so you are met with everything you need, or we thought that you needed to thrive.
Okay.
Yeah. So he creates what he calls the rat utopia, or the mouse utopia, where it's 10 square feet and they have all the food possible. They have all these compartments. It has a holding capacity of 3,000 mice. Okay. He drops 8 of them in there with like robust DNA that they can procreate effectively. And for 100 days, they just start, banging. Just mouse sex everywhere. They have a bunch of kids. And then slowly things start to decline. So around like 2 years in, it's like a 600-day, or it's like a 5-year experiment.
They're all helping each other. They're living great. There's everybody's happy.
And everyone's cooperating. So like the mothers taking care of the kids, the males are like protecting their families, And then at a certain point, out of like 1,000 rats or 1,000 mice, it starts to fall apart, where now there's conflict. And around like these high traffic zones. So like whenever the mice are coming into contact to each other, they're like hyper aggressive. And then the female mice are not protecting their young. And then they start getting into cannibalism. And the mice are actually eating each other.
When they don't have to, there's enough food.
There's enough food.
Oh, even when the population grew, they just kept the food at a level where everybody,
There's enough food for every mouse. So every time a new mouse is born, they inject more food, more food. So everyone has enough food.
But they're still fighting.
And they're still fighting. And then they're creating...
Tribalizing, right?
Yeah. And like they have all their different compartments. They can all spread out.
Yeah.
And then at these food centers, if they're these like high traffic zones, they start to get aggressive. And then it goes even further. Once they get to like 2,000, the birth rate starts to drop. They stop procreating. Mothers stop protecting their kids. At certain parts of it, there's a 90% mortality rate of young because mothers are not protecting their kids. And so then you have hyperaggression from the males, lack of maternalism from the females. And then the most interesting part is that you get some of the mice that become socially detached. So he calls it in the experiment the beautiful ones. And there's an interesting parallel with Japan. So the beautiful ones in the experiment are these mice that basically just checked out. They had food, they would go in their little compartments, and they would just groom themselves like neurotically. And they were pristine. They were like the most beautiful mice of the whole thing. Some of them were like, chewed up and eaten up in battles and stuff. These ones were just fully detached. They were like, they had nothing to do with the society. Now there's a thing happening in Japan right now, the Hokimori, if you can look it up. And basically it's a group of people in Japan that have kind of like dubbed themselves these like detached people of society that don't really participate. They get like some assistance from the government and they just kind of like live in their houses and they don't really go out and they're completely isolated from any type of community. And as a result, the hikikomori.
Yeah, hikikomori.
And they just leave in extreme isolation. And people have pointed to this, be like, this is basically the beautiful ones of the experiment. They just kind of detach fully from society.
But I would also imagine that the birth rate decline mirrors the decline of birth rates in urban centers.
Right. What people have said.
Yeah. The violence. It's like, it's not like, and again, I can't speak for everyone in New York, but it's not like people, like I see fat homeless people here, like there's food here, there's food centers. It's not like there's starvation happening. Yes, there are people that are worried about their next meal, but it's different than in third world countries. Yeah. Let's put it that way. And there is access to resources if you need it here.
Yes.
So, but you still see this like reduction in birth rate. You still see the tribalism. You still see like hyper-aggression. And it's funny that like, it's not about resources. It could be simply about proximity and how humans interact with one another. When there's too many of us in too small space, we're not just fighting over fucking gold or water or food. It's simply, we're not supposed to be around each other like this. It could literally be that.
Yeah. And so the eventual conclusion of the experiment, it didn't even get to the holding capacity. It got to like 2,300, 2,400. And then the numbers started going down. They stopped reproducing until eventually the whole society just fell out. They call it behavioral sink. Behavioral sink is just the whole thing basically just like crashed down. And the interesting part is they took some of the mice out and put them into normal enclosures. And even the mice that they took out never adapted to the new enclosures. They continue to have aggressive tendencies or non-maternalistic tendencies. And so they still had the maladaptive behavior from the original experiment. And then the kids of the mice with maladaptive behaviors continued to have hyperaggressive tendencies. And so there was like an epigenetic problem within the mice.
Y'all have to understand something, right? That I do believe people need each other. We as human beings, we need each other. We have to interact with one another. We were meant to interact with one another. Isolation is not good for any human being, but at the same time, if you live within a community, right, where there are so many different people with different mindsets, different ideologies, different mentalities, they think differently, then that means those people who think alike are going to what? They're going to band together. Yes, they're going to band together and form their own community. So within that large community, you're going to have smaller communities of like-minded people. Now, those like-minded people are also going to clash with the others who are not so like-minded, the others who have different ideologies and a different mindset. Why? Because even though there is enough food, there is enough resources for everyone, it must be survival of the fittest, no matter what. No matter how many resources you have, no matter how much is given to you, it's still going to be survival of the fittest, because in the back of our minds, we always wonder what would happen if the resources run out. And so the more people, the more procreating we do, the more we produce, the more offspring we produce, we start to feel a lack of, even though you have enough resources. You start to wonder, what if we run out of resources with all these people? And it's going on today. This is what's going on today. And when they say that you will have people who detach themselves from these communities, you will have people who detach themselves from these societies, and they call them the beautiful ones. Those types of people are the ones who do not adhere to any one ideology or idea or mindset or community, so they actually don't belong. And that is why they, in return, isolate themselves, because they think for themselves. They go home, they take care of themselves, and we know a lot of people that are like that till today. And it's crazy how you can compare mice to human beings, our behaviors, how when they do these experiments, it's similar to the human life and the human living conditions that we are under today.
They can prolong the effects.
This is actually something we should talk to 𝐇𝐞𝐚𝐝 about, with the epigenetic effects, like where you could potentially pass on trauma. This is really interesting. Women are born with all the eggs that they'll have throughout their menstrual cycles. Therefore, they're less susceptible to epigenetic factors, meaning like whatever's happening in your environment and how it influences you, what you pass on. Since they're born with all the eggs that they'll have, it's harder to transform those eggs and then pass on those genetic differences. What essentially is happening is all of evolution is happening through sperm. So the things that happen to the male, remember, we reproduce sperm every 5 days or whatever it is. You bust a few loads and then you continue happening. So the things that are happening in your life, that are impacting your life, the food that you're eating, the environments you're in, the things you're experiencing, you could say it is passed through to your young through the male, because that sperm can be manipulated by the microplastics or all these other things that are happening in the world. Kind of interesting that like evolution is dependent on the man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
it is happening to women, just at a much slower rate.
I'm not saying that these things aren't affecting them. They 100% are, but they're not changing the eggs in real time. Whereas like the sperm can be changed like month by month.
Generation gets changed.
It's just kind of a crazy thing. Like I don't know if this works, but like you going to war and coming back and carrying that trauma, I don't know how that affects your sperm. I don't know. But if there is some sort of societal or environmental effect on your sperm and it could impact it, like is there a point where you go, I think you got to hold off 5 years so you can work through this stuff that's in your body? Like you were exposed to this thing at war. It could be Agent Orange or whatever like that. That's going to be in your sperm. Or you were addicted to heroin for X amount of years. Like you need to flush whatever you got out before that same thing gets passed on. I don't know if the research has been done to that level, but it's kind of cool to think about.
I've even read some stuff with like epigenetics. Again, this might be pseudoscience, but like,
epigenetics is environment, right? It's just like
epigenetics, as I understood it, is like basically passing on genes and having traits in your young that are environmental from the parents.
Right.
So it's basically like if the parents experience something, it's possible to genetically pass it on.
That's just what I want to clarify. Yeah.
But like through like emotional shit or like high stress environments, like high anxiety parents, having children in high anxiety times could create high anxiety children, even if they're no longer anxious or raised in a non-anxious environment. I don't know necessarily what the data is on the current science, but I've heard these things.
This is the cool shit to learn about, though.
Yeah, we should talk to Tia about it.
Yeah.
Just one thing on the rat experiment. I feel like people in condensed areas tend to be a bit more open-minded and liberal towards other people because of the close confines.
100%.
So isn't that like going against what happened in the experiment in terms
So
of the
critics of the experiment would be like a few things. One, humans aren't mice. That's the obvious one. Like they don't have the consciousness or like the ability to like discern threat or not. They're just kind of acting on it.
Probably have lower capacity to change intellectualized situations.
And then additionally, people said that this is not a utopia. He called it a rat utopia. They're like, there's high density channels where people are bumping into each other. There's intentional conflict on these frequency corridors where one, if you can build an urban design well enough, you can decrease that. And two, in the wild, mice, when they're experiencing a threat, are going to run. They're not going to fight.
And if you have no place to run.
Exactly. They're fighting because they're in an enclosure.
Gotcha. That's a good. That's
and so
a very
like you can
point.
leave a city, you know, like you can run away from a conflict, things like that.
To wrap this up,
so it's like a jail.
Exactly.
more so.
A nicely ran jail.
But as a result, policymakers have taken the experiment and applied it to like theme park design, jails, all that kind of stuff.
Smart.
Where they're like, okay, in the experiment, there's only 4 zones where like they can get food, something like that. And now they're like, disperse it, put it all over. So like now theme parks will have food, like tiny little like 50-person stands all over rather than one giant spot where everyone can get food because they're trying to lower contact. And
I would also say like another criticism of the experiment and why you can't exactly compare it to the urban centers in America is that like, and maybe this is why the urban centers continue to thrive, is because people move here. If it was just us, it would fall apart. I genuinely believe that. And I think a lot of us end up moving out. Like a lot of my friends that grew up in New York, like have just moved. They went to the suburbs. They don't go too far, but they get out of it. They get out of the rat race. And like, even like, you know, I mean, your sister went to Philly.
Yeah, but ever since she was young, she never liked being around people. Like she was a suburban person.
Right. I mean, you guys grew up in a beach community, so there is. I get that. I get she's probably searching for that. But in all seriousness, I think that what allows these urban centers to continue this inorganic way of living is this influx of new people hopping on to the American dream.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was just us. Like I think about this a lot. Like we're used to it and we're accustomed to it, but it is unnatural.
Well, then you look at Japan, and you're like, okay, very low immigration, very low emigration.
And what's happening?
And now are you experiencing societal collapse? Are they having the super low birth rate? Are they having this social detachment?
And they are, right?
That's what people would say.
Yeah.
And what is the eventual fallout of that? What is the conclusion of that? According to these experiments, not great.
Yeah, it's just in some Mexicans, man.
Yeah, y'all have to understand something. Speaking of trauma, we all live with trauma. We all have trauma. I actually just had this conversation with someone yesterday about trauma and how everyone in this world still has trauma. I don't believe that you actually are healed from any trauma. You're not. You just learn how to control the traumatic experiences that you had growing up. That's all it is. It stays with you. I'm sorry. Trauma is like a stain on your personality. It's a stain on your behavior. It's a stain. It stays with you. It sticks with you. You can try to wash it off, brush it off, rub it off. It never will, because it stays there with you. Traumatic experiences, they definitely shape how you think, no matter how you think that it doesn't, because trauma is everlasting. Whatever trauma you go through, you will or you will not carry it on into any other relationships or relations that you have with people. But for the most part, it never goes away. It's always there. And so we are able to transfer that trauma to our children. Adults do it all the time. Parents do it all the time. We are always passing our traumas on to our children, unless you learn how to control the trauma that you have been through. And for people who say that, you know, the rat utopia is, you cannot compare it to human beings and living as humans, well, I must disagree with them, because if you think about it, as I stated before, in the projects, you have people that are living in an enclosed space, right? And these people, for the most part, do not go outside of the projects. There are so many people right now who have never stepped foot out of their projects. You have to understand this. This is all they know. This is all they've seen. This is where they grew up. and this is where they will die. Now, those people, well, some of them, they have certain behaviors. We have to agree about that. They are deleting each other at an alarming rate. We have to agree about that. And it is all because they are living within close proximity of each other, even though they are still getting government assistance, even though there's still resources. There's enough resources for everyone there, but still, people are deleting each other at an alarming rate because they are living within close proximity of each other, on top of each other. And of course, when you have that, it's conflict, because for the most part, you need to be able to unplug. You need to be able to get away from your neighbors. But when you can't, when you literally step out of your door and you see your neighbors right there all the time, or they are right on top of you, upstairs, downstairs, then guess what? You're going to have conflict sooner or later, because you're going to bump heads with those people, and it happens all the time. So I believe that the rat utopia is very close to human life, how we live, how we experience things, the trauma that they even said that the mice or the rats were passing on their trauma to their mice. Yes, the rats were passing on the trauma to the mice. Even though they displaced some of them, they were still exhibiting those toxic traits and being aggressive, because it is something that we pass down from generation to generation if we don't learn how to control said trauma. Until next time.
If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content.